just to say thank you for being here, the dana of being here, the generosity, the giving, of practicing together, feeling the richness of having us all be here together. And then also for the monetary dana, it really does support us as teachers, and it's humbling, and we are so grateful. So I speak for all of us. Thank you, thank you. This morning, my little kid, not so little anymore, but still little to me, he's sick right now, and so he seems littler when he's sick. So he crawled in, as he crawled into sleep last night in the bed, because that's what he does. When he's sick, he turns into a little one. But this morning, first thing, he crawled over to me and he said, "You're going to do so good at your talk today, Mama. Everybody's going to leave and go, 'Buddhist, Buddhist, Buddhist.'" Just like that. But actually I thought it was sort of profound because he got it. That it wasn't about me feeling like I had done anything good, but people walking away like, yeah, Dharma, Buddhist, Buddhist, Buddhist. And that is sort of the theme. I mean, isn't it always the theme up here? But actually exploring the theme today of refuge. And of course we can explore the idea of refuge, of finding a homecoming and places in our hearts that feel safe. And I want to explore the classical 3 refuges. I go for refuge in the Buddha, I go for refuge in the Dharma, I go for refuge in the Sangha. And this is called the triple gem in Buddhism. These 3 areas of our experience where we can find, or not our experience, but these 3 areas of the Buddhist path, really, where we can find, not just safety, but also, I was reflecting on it this week, also joy. To sit here and remember that going for refuge isn't just finding a safe place from the storm, although it is that. It's also cultivating joy. We are here, this path, we can forget that. I can forget that a lot when I take this path so seriously, that this really is a path of happiness. So let's, Buddhist, 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 let's get happy. So I was in a little teacher group that I'm in with my teacher, whose name is James Beres. He's a Bay Area teacher, one of the founders of Spirit Rock, and we meet every month. And he shared this story this week that I thought was really interesting. And it was, we were talking about contemplating, the practice of contemplating. Of like looking back, how have things gone? How have I grown? What has been my wise action? What has been my unwise action? Any kind of Dharma themes we might be contemplating in our life. And he told a story of how a long time ago, maybe in the 80s, he lived in a like little Dharma Buddhist commune in Berkeley with I think it was called the Harwood House, they called it. And it was like West Nisker, a lot of the founding Spirit Rock teachers lived together. And he said that Ajahn Sumedho, who is the senior lineage holder in the Thai forest tradition. Have any of you heard of Ajahn Sumedho? Yeah, some of you are familiar. Really just the big jolly grandpa of the Thai forest tradition, lives in England still, I think. So he was staying with them in this little Buddhist commune before he was going somewhere in the Bay Area to lead a retreat. And James said that morning of the retreat, he got a call that his mother had died in England. And obviously he was very upset, and he said, I can't do the retreat. I need to go to Seattle and be with my sister. Yeah, you're going to have to go lead this retreat. And, James was like, I think maybe in his 30s, young, starting out teaching, like, I got to go lead Ajahn Sumedho's retreat. So he was a little bit like, well, Ajahn Sumedho, and the way that Ajahn Sumedho teaches is with no notes. In the Thai forest tradition, it's just speaking the Dharma from the present moment. And James was like, And he said, what should I teach this retreat on? And Ajahn Sumedho said, talk about reflection. Practitioners in the West don't use the practice of reflection enough. Y'all are emphasizing just this present moment, awareness, mindfulness, what's happening right now, what's happening in this present moment. Bring in reflection. Bring in reflection. And so I felt validated in that, because that's a very strong part of my own practice, and also what I was hoping we would do today together is practice some reflection. And in part for me too, that I don't know if you see this happening for yourself this time of year, but it does feel like this liminal space between 2025 and 2026, whatever that really means. It's a time for reflection. I feel that. I sense that. I start noticing that my mind starts doing that. Like Maggie was it was Dan who was saying, some people will be here on New Year's doing reflection. What do I want to let go of? What do I want to invite in? This is a beautiful way to practice. And I just feel that this time of year lends itself to that. So my hope for this Dharma exploration today is to offer a few thoughts about each one of these refuges, and then have some time for reflection and internal reflection. So this might feel like a little more meditative, like we'll pause and just reflect for a few moments and then share if people feel called to share. That's my plan for today. So here we are in this beautiful liminal space between the turning of the year, and it is just such a wonderful time with this idea of a new beginning, a new year, to just look back and see how we've grown. See how we've grown, because we have. We can't not. Not when we're on this practice, on this path. Maybe little things, maybe it's a year of big, big changes last year. So starting today, over these next 7 days, we are heading into the darkest time of the year. Yeah, the days are getting shorter and shorter and shorter. The nights are longer. I think it's kind of a magical time. And this year I've been looking around and sort of actually reflecting on our own family traditions and looking at the lights all around, and just feeling like at the heart of all of these traditions, really we're attempting to create refuge. A sense of connection, a sense of brightness, lightness, warmth. And it's all good. I mean, unless it's not, I don't know, you'll have to see. Are you very stressed out right now with your holiday preparations? Something we can also reflect on if you celebrate holidays. Not inherently beautiful, not inherently joyful. But they can be such a support. The light, the lighting of things, the food, all of it. And they can really gladden the mind. They can really open us up to a sense of connection, joy. And the cool thing about Buddhism and the Dharma is the Buddha said, but you don't need it. You don't need any pleasant sense experience at all to find a sense of refuge. A sense of warmth, joy, metta, love. We have refuge available to us from inside of our own hearts and minds, not dependent on pleasant things to see, to eat, to touch, and on and on. So this is a quote from the Dhammapada, in the words of the Buddha. Many people shaken by fear go for refuge to mountains and woods, to places with beautiful trees. That is not a secure refuge. That is not the refuge supreme, nor is it the refuge to come to that liberates from all suffering. Whoever has gone for refuge to the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, and who sees it as it really is, the Four Noble Truths, that is a secure refuge. That is the refuge supreme. That is the refuge to come that liberates all from suffering. So he does also tell us to go to the forest to practice. So just saying, like he does say go sit under a tree and go sit into a forest and practice. But this idea of going to the beautiful places for refuge, most of us have probably done that most of our life and continue to do so. I certainly find myself doing that. Something is going wrong. Let me find some beauty. Let me go see something or hear some music or do something outside of myself to uplift the heart. And that's okay. Really, it can be such a support. And there's a refuge supreme that is not dependent on sense pleasure. I think it's good news. So these refuges, and just to say, someone did ask, could we chant today? And yes, we will chant today. I thought we would talk about the refuges first and chant at the end, maybe feel more of a connection to the chanting. These Buddha, the Dhamma, or you can say Dhamma or Dharma, depending on Pali is Dhamma, Sanskrit is Dharma. The Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, these are often called the triple gem or the three jewels. And I love that image because I think of jewels as, with the facets and you turn it around, and you hold it up to the light and it shines in different ways. And I think it's a great image for how to approach these refuges. There isn't one particular way we're meant to find refuge in these three aspects of the Dharma. And that's where I want to go today. Like, let's find our own way in. I can tell you maybe some of the classical ideas or how I'm thinking about it, but let's see if we can today leave here maybe with a sense of a connection to these refuges, or just, beginning the reflection, do I even want that? Do I even want that feeling of connection to these? So the first of these refuges is I take refuge, or I seek refuge, or I go for refuge in the Buddha. Buddham saranang gacchami, we say in the chant. 3 times. Dutiyampi, Buddham saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi, Buddham saranang gacchami. I go for refuge in the Buddha. So just for a moment, like feeling in the body without me saying anything about it, what happens in your heart? Maybe you have no idea yet, and that's okay, but just feeling into it. Whatever the heart's response is all here for learning. Can bring awareness to what's arising. Sometimes I walk into this hall and I look at this Buddha, and I'm aware of what it feels like in my heart just looking at the image. So that could be a way that we just start the exploration. If you look at this Buddha with your eyes, I think you online at home, they can see it. Just noticing. That's what happens. There's nothing particular that needs to happen, but this is just one way to explore. You know, we have so many Buddha images and teachers' images, sacred images of Buddhas in this room. Does anything happen in your heart just when you see them? And I'm curious, we could just pause for a moment and have a little share here. Does anyone, Paul? And again, there's really no right or wrong or anything you're supposed to feel. I'm just curious. Something happens to me when I see it. And yeah.
Given that this is a newer practice coming.
Just hold it closer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Given this is a newer practice that I'm practicing more physically and with awareness, I have what could be like a strange juxtaposition. I feel like an aching and a longing, but also hope that all is happening sort of simultaneously.
When you see that image. Mm.
When I think about image or no image, just like the weight of that feeling.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
I'm Michael, he, him pronouns. What comes up for me is just calmness and solitude. Calmness and solitude comes up for me when I see the image of that statue there.
Yeah, it's just happening. It's just when you see the image, you just feel that.
I'm Jordia, she, her, and I feel a curiosity and an invitation.
Thanks, Jordia, for sharing. Okay. And if your response is, I really feel nothing, like that, I have sometimes feel nothing either. You know, not that anything's supposed to happen. It's just interesting. I have them Buddhas around my house, and often I don't even notice them, you know? But sometimes I'll just lock in and be like, nothing's happening in the mind, like there's no thought about the Buddha, but I can just feel a sense of belonging just in that moment if I'm present for it, or sometimes a sense of sacredness or meaningfulness. So nothing that we're trying to make happen, just a place to be aware. A place to bring awareness to. We'll keep going, Paul, thanks. We will have some more sharing though, so yeah, you'll get a workout today. So when I was doing my own reflection, I've been reflecting actually on these refuges, you know, for a long time in practice. And often when I do these reflections on the refuges, I go straight to my connection to the refuge and the Dharma. That's where I feel like the juice. And just this year, something really has changed in my connection to this idea of refuge and the Buddha. And I've been exploring it a little, contemplating, reflecting. And I think my complicated relationship with taking refuge in the Buddha is that I wasn't really sure what it was, this Buddha. Like myth, some of the stories that you hear in the Dharma are pretty wild, far out. Like, is this a real person? Is this a myth? What's happening? Parts of it, you know, like just a little confusion around who this being, the Buddha, actually was. And I think two things happening simultaneously for me. And one is I became really I could hear it all of a sudden, the way that some of these sort of no-nonsense Dharma teachers that are not in any way woo-woo or airy-fairy or, you know, just kind of those like teachers that are just like, I don't know, you know what I'm talking about, right? Like really clear. Like Joseph Goldstein, like Ajahn Sumedho, like senior monks and nuns. They talk about the Buddha like they talk about the historical person, the Buddha. And they have so much respect for the Buddha as a person. And so I think with that, I've really been hearing it, and I've been listening to the words and the way they describe the Buddha when they're talking about the teachings. And it's just, I hear this like unshakable respect, faith, love, devotion that comes through these maybe not so like heart ooey gooey kinds of teachers. And something in that, something in listening to the way that especially Joseph talks about the Buddha, and even some of the more, parts of the Buddhist cosmology that might feel more out there, Joseph really talks about them in this very clear and direct way. And it has very much opened me to my relationship with I go for refuge in the Buddha. And I've begun to have a relationship with, in my heart, in my mind, with this historical being. And not just listening to teachers and borrowing their devotion to this being, but also as I open to more insight, as the Dharma reveals itself, as the teachings become verified in my own experience, I sit here and say, whoa, this guy, 2,500 years ago, mapped out everything that neuroscience is proving today. It is amazing to me that he, with that resolve, with that clarity of mind, just mapped out how it is. And it's just these subtle areas of our experience where we just get identified, we just get stressed out, the things that we don't see, the natural tendencies of the mind, and then how to free ourselves from all of that. He just sat under a tree, so the story goes. Those are the parts that are like, really? Just sat under a tree? But we'll never really know, right? But really, he did it. He really sat, he really practiced, and he did all kinds of practices before the night of his awakening. So it wasn't just a one-night thing. It was a whole lifetime and maybe even other lifetimes of opening, of learning. But he really, and even just when I look at one sutta, just one sutta, the Satipatthana Sutta, the sutta on the teaching of the four foundations of mindfulness, it's just mind-blowing to me that he could map all of that out for us. And how neuroscience is like checking it. Yep. And I'm not a neuroscience person. I don't go seek it out, but I do end up hearing it a lot. And I find that just, at one, I'm just like, yeah, who cares? The Buddha already did it. We don't need science to prove it. But the other side is like, wow, that gives me refuge in the Buddha of how, what a cool guy. What a really cool guy. So for me, I've really, really been thinking about him as an actual person. And that has actually given me so much more of a sense of refuge in the Buddha versus this like mythological awakened being, which is another way we can actually take refuge in the Buddha as this more symbolic symbol of awakening that is possible for us too. So if that feels more alive for you, that's another way to really feel into it, the Buddha as a symbol of awareness and compassion. There's something else that I've been, contemplating along with the historical image of, not the historical image, the true historical person, this Buddha. The teachings that he offered, and in particular, this one line from the Metta Sutta, and I was sharing this last time I was here, but it's in some way the quote that Maggie started similar to the idea of the quote that Maggie started our announcements with. It's from the Metta Sutta where the Buddha says, even as a mother protects with her life her child, her only child, so should we cherish all living beings. That's hard to do right now. I don't know about you, but I find myself just judging people up and down and all around these days. The idea that I would not be doing that and cherishing them and protecting them and loving them, I mean, that's what this guy, this Buddha was standing for. I mean, that's the heart of his teachings right there, along with all of the other Four Noble Truths, Eightfold Path. That is when we hear that this is a path that's going against the stream. This is part of that, going against the stream. Yes, we're going against the stream of the tendencies of greed and hatred and delusion. But that's what this means, going against the stream of hatred. Last month, I was on a little retreat, and it was up in White Salmon. And on the White Salmon River, the salmon were going against the stream. And they were big. And I was just sitting there right at the water's edge and watching these salmon swim up the stream, and it looked like such hard work. I mean, that river was so strong. I would not put one toe in that river. It was so strong. And these salmon, right? And all I could think about while I was watching them was, yeah, this is how hard it is to practice, this going against the stream that the Buddha is inviting us to do. Going against these tendencies to judge and hate people and blame. Going against the wanting this, the wanting that, wanting to be this, wanting to not be that. It does take a lot of work. It is going against the stream. Just look at a salmon. Look how hard they work. That's how hard we're working too. And it doesn't always have to feel like that, but just to know it is that challenging. And when we get to talking about refuge and Sangha, oh, yeah, that's why we need each other. So let's have a moment of reflection now. Buddham saranang gacchami. I go for refuge in the Buddha. What might that mean for you? Or maybe the reflection is just beginning. Do I want that to mean something to me? This idea of having a relationship with the Buddha, either as a symbol or a historical person, a sacred image. Is that alive for you?